Hello.
Hello. No friends today?
You're my friend, Dr.
I
Marie.
know, apart from me, no other friends.
Well, good. Tree B stopped by Dr. Marie, and
Okay.
I said we would take care of his or her question. I can't see the logo. I can't stay for long. I'll plan to come back and listen to the recording tomorrow. I'm hoping you can talk about the effect of long-term hard alcohol use on the brain, i.e., two
Oh,
shot glasses. Ooh. Especially the effect it has on one's ability to calm themselves down without the alcohol, and then how and why neurofeedback helps them. There you go, Dr. Marie. Thanks for stopping in.
yeah. Boy, oh boy, can I ever.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it affects the brain a lot. Depending on, well, I mean, why somebody starts to drink. And if we're going to go all the way to alcoholism, some individuals start, it's social, meaning they start to have a couple of drinks, at parties, and then they kind of notice, hey, not only do I enjoy the party more when I have a few drinks in me, I'm more social, I'm not as nervous, I'm not as awkward, right? So, oh, okay, 10 years of daily bourbon. Yeah, so one is how they started. Um, uh, so there could be no big issue in the region of the brain responsible for quieting. It's just a social softener that turns into something. The other is most individuals that are prone to addictions, whether it's alcohol or not, the occiput is overactive, meaning there's too much beta in the back of the brain and not enough theta in the back of the brain, and more noticeable eyes closed than eyes open. So these are people who can't quiet. And then they literally discover that alcohol has a quieting, air quote, benefit. So it starts as self-medicating, and then can stay in self-medicating depending on whether it's deemed harmful, um, versus addiction, right? And so self-medicating can cross over and become addiction. And what's the difference between a little bit of self-medicating and addiction? It's the harm scale. So if it's harming yourself, if it's harming others around you, if it's harming your work, yeah. So definition of addiction is essentially you don't stop or you can't stop, even though you know that it's causing harm to self or others. Um, yeah, so somebody who's been doing this for 10 years, I guarantee you that they've negatively stabilized the back of the brain with high beta, low theta, so trouble quieting without consuming. And over time, the negative gets stronger and stronger. So long-term alcoholics, it's very hard to, hey, Anthony, it's really hard to move that one. Um, Individuals, so we do longer therapy, the theta beta at the back of the brain, theta up, beta down, or only beta down, or only theta up tends to be the big one. But individuals who have the high beta beta marker in the front, or a gamma beta marker, those are individuals that are highly subject to recidivism. So it's easy to work only on the back. It takes many, many sessions to, you said over 10 years of self-medicating or addiction. But they're going to, unless they get at the anterior cingulate, what we call a hot cingulate. Last but definitely not least, they're the old Peniston protocols, where you work with both alpha and theta. But bottom line, you have to know why the person started to drink. If it was simple social relaxation, if it was trauma, if it was for insomnia. We know that individuals use alcohol as a sleep aid, and of course it backfires because you're not sleeping, you're essentially passing out. So that's the whole overview. Do you have any uh, more specific questions, Tia, or is the overview good for you?
Tree, if you got questions, just ask them. We'll put them here. The question I have, Dr. Marie, like when somebody comes in for treatment or training,
Mhm.
do they need to tell you that they're on tirzepatide or semaglutide? Because we're talking about cravings here, and supposedly that helps with cravings. Does somebody need to tell you that they're on that before they do their neurofeedback, or does it matter?
I don't know, but I think it's not smart to not tell your doc what you're taking. Yeah, it's as simple as that. So yes, but the problem with a lot of these meds is they work and they don't work. Long-term alcoholics kind of get used to it, and they drink on while taking things that reduce the craving. So sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're not. The other is people just if they want to drink and they want to feel it more, they don't take them, right? So it's part of the profile of addiction. You know that if you take a certain medication, it will reduce the alcohol buzz. So if you really want to drink, you know, you drink twice as much on the meds that kill the buzz, or you don't take them. I mean, there's these horrible, horrible catch-22s. There are other classes that make you feel a little bit nauseous. Same thing. People choose not to. So it's tough, and that's why I really, really believe in the neuro. Because if you don't go after the quieting of the brain, the mechanism, the organ that's demanding this or the quieting, the meds, they help and they don't help. But if they're working for you, we keep on. But for a lot of people I work with, it's kind of like the nicotine patch with smoking. It can help some, but for a lot of people, they smoke and wear the nicotine patch. Anthony, do you have any? I hear you tapping away, so I think you're going to some studies there.
I'm so impressed with Pete Remember. And yeah, I had an MD friend before. How do I stop drinking? They thought
Anthony, I think you've
What's
had
up?
a couple. Log out, log
What
back
happened?
in. I think your anterior singlet's locked on.
That was almost yours, wasn't it, Pete?
I'm like, wait, I haven't had anything to drink yet.
Are you still in Vegas?
No, I'm back home. Glad to be back.
Yeah.
Everybody should go there for a couple of days. All right, here we go.
It's
Hey,
Disneyland for adults.
Oh, much better. I
you
thought
guys
you
can hear
had
me
to.
now? Sorry, I was just saying, I was actually complimenting Pete for remembering that Ozempic is now the hot new. I mean, I think it has greater efficacy than pretty much any therapy for addiction. The one other I've heard of is psychedelics. But Jay's study, I'm sure Mari has heard of Jay's study on addicts that he did and wrote up himself on about 30 addicts.
Yeah.
And he had great success. So neurofeedback, actually, I misspoke. Neurofeedback, at least in that small study, has the highest efficacy rate. Most of the people that they treated, I think he said all but one of 32 were abstinent or substance free a year later or something, which is unheard of. So
I'm not just biased toting our profession. I mean, in my work, it's the one with the most success because it actually changes the craving structure. You're not just muting it. The problem, by the way, with Ozempic, I think the other one is Wegovy. I don't know. I had the names, the generic, the names right. But most long-term alcoholics have hurt their pancreas as they can't take it. And also, there's some question even about a kidney, right? So, yeah, because it affects. It's too strong on the pancreas, so you can really get essentially if you don't already have pancreatitis, you can get it. So, yeah.
But if I don't tell you that I'm on tirzepatide or semaglutide or whatever, and you're doing a neurofeedback, does that screw up the training for you, Dr. Marie? Like marijuana or anything like that? Yeah. Something funky's going on.
Yeah, a lot of these, it depends. Like certain meds, you numb the feelings. Okay, so if you can't access the feelings to work through them, Like there's certain classes of SSRIs. I'm not saying people are wasting their money, but you have to start and then slowly titrate off them, because then we have we have cleaner and cleaner and cleaner access to the brain. And with good neurotherapy work, it potentiates many, many classes of drugs. So, for example, a lot of the ADHD drugs, some of the anti-anxiety drugs, they start to get stronger, and they get stronger because the brain is getting healthier and doesn't need it as much. But whatever you do, always, always, always tell who you're working with, what you're on, what the doses are, and if you can sign consent for them to chat with your MD or psychiatrist, that can be helpful. Some MDs and psychiatrists or prescribers don't know about neurotherapy. Sorry, I got distracted by the question there. Yeah, they don't know, and sometimes it helps for them to know that it potentiates. So yes, Pete, you want to read the question, or should I read the question?
No, I'll take it. Tree, he is not saying that. He's asking, should you tell your neurofeedback provider, I believe he was asking, should you mention to your neurofeedback provider if you're on a drug like Wegovy? But in fact, Tree, if you just Google, does Ozempic or Wegovy help substance abuse or drinking, you will find trials showing that it does. I have a psychiatrist friend who studies this specifically, and she has spoken at conferences on it, and there's very good data. So as far as pharmacological treatment, it seems to be a good one. Yeah. So
now that said, now again, please check all of this with your MD. All right.
Yes.
But
yeah,
if
obviously.
if you have issues with your pancreas, it is not wise to be taking medications that are heavy on the pancreas, okay? And that can also sometimes be kidney, but the research on the pancreas is solid, okay? Now that's long-term heavy drinkers who have pancreatitis or similar. Chat with your MD.
Yes, Dr. Mari, so I've spoken to MDs about this. The clinical trials on Ozempic did show a mildly elevated risk of pancreatitis. Now, the problem with that is it was not a strong signal, is my understanding, but also obese individuals are at much greater risk of pancreatitis to begin with. And the other thing is they say is if you have pancreatitis, they just take you off. So again, discuss with your doctor. A lot
of alcoholics are not obese, and they can be prescribed this. Well, the issue is it's becoming a panacea for everything. When we have what we call emergent research, check, and double check. All I'm talking about is calculated risk and informed choice. Right. I would say, again, I'm not an MD, check with your MD, that there's enough of a suggestion out there that you want to check with your MD.
Oh, absolutely. And you need to, as far as I know, to get the drug legally anyway, kind of thing. So by all means, please do consult.
The other one, now that we're talking about it, is there's this association with hair loss, and females and hair loss. And I mean, irony, talk about catch-22, you'll drop 50 pounds, but your hair will thin out. So, you know, that's an interesting trade-off. It's kind of like young females who are depressed. They go on certain classes of antidepressants and they gain 30 pounds. And most young females gaining 30 pounds, they get depressed, right? So do check, you know, and it's risks and benefits, or benefits and the cost of the benefits. So many people choose to take a medication to get rid of the depression and are okay with gaining 30 pounds. And many people, it's not a good trade-off. Again, why we are so pro neurotherapy, right? Because with depression, you balance the frontal lobes, you fine tune the the occiput, you have a good look at the interior cingulate, and you can really balance things out so that you don't have major depression, and you don't have to make the decision between weight and depression.
Wow. That
Mhm.
was eloquently said. I like it. That was good.
There we go. Yeah.
So-
That's what we got, Dr. Marie here. Hey, did you guys see that we are the #3 neuroscience podcast?
Pretty cool,
Is
huh?
it number 3? Okay.
Yeah.
I saw. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe that.
3.
Yeah.
Well,
3, and
that's incredible.
I'll put the link in here, and we're 40 and 50 on something else. I don't know, but
yeah, but I mean, we made the top 100 of all of them, top 50 in one, and number 3. So I mean, I think that's great. Too bad we were just talking about alcoholism. Otherwise, I'd say we should have all brought a glass of something and cheers.
That's cute. That's funny.
it could come by.
Yeah. Now going back, just to, devil's advocate, there are individuals that have they come from very, very good gene pools. And, a couple of glasses of wine a day, more so red than white.
And red hair.
Yeah.
Oh,
And people claim, really, really good health into their 90s. So much of this is epigenetic. Harder alcohol tends to have a harder toll, just across it. But it's really good open dialogues. And if there's harm being caused, and sometimes the harm can be, and again, I'm going to air quote simple, that, 2 shots of bourbon is just enough to make some people snore all night. That's harming your bed partner, right? And a lot of people don't think that's serious. They think about all the mood issues and the no production at work. They think about the big ones, but there are a lot of smaller, subtle harms with consistent alcohol consumption. Yeah.
You're exactly right, Dr. Marie. I was just talking about this with somebody, that people completely discount the effect their snoring has on their partner.
Yeah.
And I have spoken to women, honestly, as a result of me encouraging a friend to sleep track, to use a phone app to sleep track. Hey, it's imperfect, but let's at least get some data, okay?
Yeah.
She's like, I've realized that my husband's snoring just is horrible for my sleep. Now, has he done anything about his snoring? No. She has had to compensate. She's bought several different pairs of earplugs, and now she's purchased an expensive headset to wear that blocks him out. But I just wish that people would, it goes back to last week when I was worried about sleep apnea sufferers, that I know so many people that, I mean, Dr. Mari, I wasn't kidding last week when I told you I have 2 friends tell me, yeah, I'm always exhausted. I get like 4 hours of sleep a night. One of them was like, yeah, I use CPAP. It doesn't work. Just comfortable with that. I'm not going to say they weren't in stress about it. And it just shocked me that somebody would, now their health is horrible. I want to reiterate. So they're not entirely coping.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just shocking sometimes. Yeah.
We have some major cultural issues going on here. I mean, first of all, I wasn't going to do a shameless plug for the book, but it's actually in there. I talk about the water cooler. Like 2 people come into work and they're at the coffee machine and water cooler, and one person goes in, oh, I worked all night and I only got 4 hours sleep, and everybody's like, yay, applaud, good work. The other person comes in, I left work, I only stayed a half an hour later. I'll be able to finish it today. I went home, had a nice dinner, made love with my wife, played with the kids, and he's not the guy rewarded. Like, that's the guy that has a nice, healthy, balanced life. But we do the bowing and the accolades to the one who's essentially self-destructing and probably not efficient at work. The reason why they had to stay up all night is because of the repetitive sleep disturbance. So it's been proven over and over and over again. You're much better stopping the project and getting the proper sleep, because you'll be much more efficient the next day. Yeah.
Dr. Martin,
I'll talk about snoring after.
What'd you say? Sorry.
Yeah. Should I Continue with the snoring. That's the other cultural one where we just don't take it seriously and the effect on bed partners, and just wear earplugs. It doesn't work that way. Some of the solutions to snoring are actually ridiculously easy, like side sleeping, pillow propping, and having alcohol out of your system before you go to bed. So have the martini before dinner, the glass of wine with dinner, and don't drink after dinner. You know, you don't have to be anti-alcohol. You know, you can still enjoy your life, but it's about the timing. And when women go and complain, sorry, I'm being genderist, but it tends to be more an issue of females and their bed partners. But you know, we don't respect how much harm we're doing to the other person. Yeah.
There's an article on how sleep loss affects empathy in relationships. Yeah. And so I don't know what percentage, but some of these people that maybe are not worried about their snoring and they're keeping their spouse up, they might have a much more, peaceful marriage if they just did a little bit of tweaking.
That's a fact. If you know, the fly on the wall type of thing, in terms of, homicidal utterances of women, like the anger of the sleep deprivation, and not the poke, sweetie, could you go on your side? It's like, God damn it, push, shove, like that violent frustration. But it's so true when you don't listen to somebody and you don't take it seriously. And we know what sleep deprivation does to hormones in terms of appetite. Okay. We know what it does, to mood. Okay. We know what it does to performance. Okay. But we don't, if it's your bed partner snoring, we don't respect the voice of the other person, and it's cultural. It's really cultural. And the other is, it makes a lot of sense to resolve it also because very little known literature, and it's actually rather sweet. Can anybody guess one of the key determinants of couples that stay together long term?
Money.
Is it sleep divorce or something like that, Dr. Murray?
No, it's subtle touching throughout sleep. Okay. Now you don't have to be full legs, arms all over each other. It could be as simple as just pinkies touching, but subtle touching throughout sleep.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, the solution of 2 separate bedrooms, it doesn't just kill your sex life. So the sexual intimacy, it kills all intimacy. So there's no pillow talk. There's no snuggling.
Yeah.
Right? You're not in each other's breathing patterns and heart rhythms. Yeah.
That was cool. I saved that. It makes sense to tie you to your partner somehow, that the touching may, I don't know, maybe it's just soothing. Maybe you sleep better because of that touching on some level, assuming that there's no, loud noises. But
yeah.
Dr. Murray, why, if sleep is so important and Western medicine is the number one standard, why was there a culture for so many years to deprive sleep of the interns? So you have somebody working on you with lack of sleep. Why did that happen?
Idiocy, right? And again, it's what I was talking about. That was my water cooler story, right? It's about proving how strong you are, and it's dangerous. The fact that we still have this in our culture is insanity. It's insanity. The last person you want in an ER is somebody who's sleep deprived, doing double shifts, or even, I don't even think 12-hour shifts make sense, right? You want. Yeah.
One of the reasons they do that, Dr. Mari, is because they found that errors occur. The most common place they occur is patient handoff. So it is sort of counterintuitive. And I will say doctors we have a shortage of doctors and they are overworked. Yeah. And a lot of that is due to regulation. The doctors themselves, the AMA, limit how many med schools we can build and who can become a doctor quite strongly. There's a lot of articles written on this. But yes, it's, I guess I was curious about it too. and I couldn't find it's quite as bad as we maybe think, that there would be trade-offs to having people come in, rotate more frequently.
No, I get it. I would love to see the data, like really see the stats, because I'm completely in client trade-off, whether it's medicine, floor laying,
yes,
sandwich making. It makes sense. You're going to get the order a little bit wrong, or the specs, but like what percentage of incidents by fatigue versus trade-off? And I guess we're talking about those 3 extra hours. I'd love to see the data, like interesting data, given that we're talking about it in terms of the sirens at night, that you actually do not save necessarily the 3 seconds, or sometimes the 3 minutes difference does not save the life, but the sleep deprivation of the 10 to 40,000 people that you wake up with the siren is actually more detrimental in terms of car accidents, et cetera, the next day. Right. So,
oh wow, the siren, you're talking about a siren from an ambulance that rapid response may have costs too, is the idea, or something, or using sirens in general. Go on.
Sirens. All the rapid response. So ambulance, police, and fire. The waking up. So if you go to a city with the towers, people living in the towers, and the echo going through at 3 a.m. or one of the worst ones is the early morning, just 1 or 1.5, 2 hours before people wake up. The sleep deprivation that you're having on the whole community is far more accident and death causing than getting the person to the hospital 1 to 3 minutes faster.
Wow. I love trade-offs. I'm a big fan of the law of unanticipated consequences.
Yeah.
And that is why I have been, traditionally, I've been a smaller government person. And so not to get too political. But Dr. Mari, something you said about doctors, and we have a message for Josh from Radar here.
Yep.
We talked last week. Jay said that sometimes sleep deprivation can manifest as high beta.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he said. He said specifically it can manifest as excessive drive. Mm-hmm. And so I mentioned this to my MD close friend last week, that Jay said that. Yeah. And he said, I think I may be one of those people, because he constantly complains of sleep, and he'll say, oh, that's going to hurt my sleep. And I'll be like, are you going to be okay? He's like, it's fine. That's just the default. That's just, he doesn't ever sleep well, but he's an extremely productive person, which is, to be honest with you, that's been the bulk of these deprived sleepers.
I'm guilty. And it's just, it depends on what I'm doing. Like if I don't have to be, up and at my desk at 6 a.m., I will literally get up and write. Okay. I prolifically produce. But there are just certain times where it doesn't work. And that's where, hey, I didn't plant this one, but that's where the sleep app comes in, right? So there are things that you can do to facilitate reentry into stage 1 sleep that don't involve pills, which just help you pass out anyways. And you can't take them after a certain hour. You're just a zombie the next day. So.
And what do you like to re-enter stage 1 sleep, Mari? Is it like meditation, breathing, or?
No, again, this is the app that we've developed.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yes, go on.
Yeah, and we have an N in our study of 150 now, and it brings down the high beta. And it brings down the beta and the occipit and the theta up in the occipit. So it's essentially quieting, and it helps to reintroduce stage 1 sleep. It's very, very powerful. Yeah, and data. Anthony, we've got the data.
Anthony, could you pass along Radar's message?
Sorry about that. Josh, Radar he said here just now that he has purchased your book, and he got around and he enjoyed it. And he said that you had actually covered who the first neurofeedback practitioner was. And you had said
it's still debatable. Okay, I referenced A Symphony of the Brain. Like, you can look at everything in my book, it has citations. And when I talked about, the earliest, providers, I mentioned Margaret Ayers because that's who Jim Robbins notes. Now, that being said, you can also look at Neil Burbaumer was, kind of outdoing things in Europe, but that was debated for a long time because there was some undue criticism, a lawsuit. He ended up winning the lawsuit, and they're probably going to republish it like literally soon because he won the lawsuit. But Burbaumer could have been earlier now, but that's kind of like we're still figuring out who might have been first. There was a couple co-occurring things happening. Now, practitioner, maybe Margaret Eyre, she wasn't a licensed practitioner, but she was out there using it not for research. And that may have been like a criteria for saying first provider. Everybody was doing research all over the place early, and it's hard to argue 1940s, 1950s. But Margaret Eyres was like actually working on people, not for research.
Gotcha. That's cool. That is really
so
good.
It depends on how you define it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they always say that great ideas, 7 people are working on it at the same time simultaneously. And that's around the world. Yeah.
Well, and what's fascinating is, Burbaumer was working on like slow cortical training, like 0.1 hertz, like way earlier than everybody else was working on anything else, which is like mind boggling that was a thing way back when and early on too,
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Cool stuff.
Yeah.
And all the modern neurofeedback practitioners can trace their lineage to Ayers. Thank you, Radar.
Yep, I can. Yep, I can trace mine.
Wow. Oh, cool.
Oh, that's great.
We got a new question from Lynn. Thank you for coming back, Lynn. We love it. She says, I've seen several kids with every frequency band at T4 and T6 have Z-scores of -1.2 and lower. What behaviors would be symptoms of this deficiency? Trying to differentiate symptoms.
A thick skull.
So it's artifacts, so to speak. Yeah, that's right. Jay mentioned that last week.
I mean, it depends. Okay. I mean, also look at, where T4 and T6 lie, right? And we immediately go to brokers, but sometimes it can be, jaw stuff or ear stuff or, Sorry, I'm always very, very tentative to answer these questions with anything that could be presumed as factual.
And I'm not so sure if, for example, I was thinking about low Z-scores across the board when I said low skull, not necessarily just 2 locations, but these 2 locations specifically, there's not a huge issue or concern with being 1.2 Z-scores low. Like that's not generally like a targetable offense. Am I right?
I don't think so. Well, I'm not a big fan of Z-scores either, right? And
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
I'm going to run with you, Josh, on this one. That that it's not enough to really do something. And that's what I'm saying. It could just be some kind of little tension. And if you've got a Z-score out by 3, you will know what the symptom goes with it because they will tell you.
And we can go look what that is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
Well, Mari already did it for me in a more diplomatic way, but the database, I'm a little suspicious, and I'm new, and there's going to be counter arguments to this, but they always say, well, we chose the best individuals for these databases. We've chosen the healthiest individuals, and I'm just thinking I can't get Dr. Mari's comment out of my head that like, look who society lionizes or gives accolades to. It's the workaholic at the desk who, you're forgetting that he could have a much happier, balanced life if he spent a little more time with his kids, so to speak. Yeah. So I just don't even know if I would trust who someone else. I almost trust the EEG to tell me if you're normal than your best friend or your mom even. So yeah.
Another and what is normal? I don't want to be normal. Okay. If you take everybody without symptoms, first of all, it's a melting pot, okay, because people will creep in, all right. And the other is normal is pretty bland and boring, okay. Now, the 2 lines of atypical, okay, so there's some atypical that it's very, very unpleasant living experience, okay, and other ones that can be genius. So I'll give a very, very fast brain can be anxiety, or it can be extreme productivity. Okay, same thing. A very slow marker could be cognitive slowing, intellectual deficits, or it could be very, very chill. What are you looking for? And I repeat it and repeat it and repeat it because people always get it when I say it. Einstein's brain, I guarantee you, was not typical. Okay, so you have to be really careful about what you're training out. So that's why we, in the method that we use, the Swingle clinical Q, everything is on a clinical line. So we have no symptoms in the middle. And I like to use the one for mood. And then over here we have euphoria, and over there we have extreme depression. So we're looking at how close you are to euphoria and extreme depression. We don't look in the middle. Okay, so we take you away from the extremes until your quality of life is such that it's thumbs up without taking it away. Now, what's the difference between euphoria and mania and extreme productivity? The person. Okay. So some people, it's a bipolar mania where they go out and buy, 3 sets of $5,000 golf clubs. Like, okay, we want to tone that down a little bit. Okay. Versus it's people, inventors and entrepreneurs. I mean, that light is shining, shining, shining. You don't want to dull that light, right? So it's highly individualistic. Now, I'm not anti-Z-Store. Don't get me wrong. But you have to always ask the questions, make it match the symptom, have a look at Broca's areas in terms of what it may or may not be affecting. But I still would pick reading the raw data. And no secret, I'm a fan of amplitude training. It works. Very, very targeted treatment. Here we go. Targeted treatment.
Nice.
I like that. Lynn is saying she feels it's been she says the EEG at these spots has been very abnormal over more than 50 or 60 sessions. May have been TBI. So
then check the 19 channel and have a look. I mean, you'll be able to see TBI. And if you're unsure, get a really, really good mentor. Jay is semi-retired, but they're really, really good people out there who can help you to reduce. You'll see it. See it, but you won't see it in the Z-score. You'll see it in the waveform. It'll be implied in the Z-score. It'll be implied in the topography. I'm going to get myself in trouble. Let me clarify. One of the issues with topography is if it's artifacted correctly or incorrectly. So that's why I say go to the raw EEG and only read topographies if you can go back and access the raw EEG to make sure, given that we're talking about the T's, for example, you can have a real hot spot for supposed beta activity, and what it really is somebody was clenching their teeth. Okay. Yeah. And a computer missed that.
I don't know if people know like how common of a problem this is if you do like a lot of consulting. I'm sure you do. It's constant. Like today, I'm having to write somebody and be like, this is not going to work. Like I have to have the raw data. And I'm not going to speculate on this. But as I look at it, I can say there's probably 8 or 9 things that I can say I don't know what they are. And I don't know if the conclusion of the report is valid unless I can get the raw data. And then, of course, they reach out to get the raw data and it's, it was deleted on accident. Of course it was. How many times have you heard that, by the way, Maria? Have you heard them say that?
Or we don't have it, or they won't release, or we don't need it. We were told we don't need it. We have the report. We have the written report to explain. And we have
the original clinic not giving the EDF files or the .eg files. They're always missing, always deleted.
So I repeat this message over and over and over again as the 19 channel and the Z-score gets more and more, dare I say, popular, that you actually need incredible talent to wield that. Yeah. Otherwise, they're just pretty pictures. But they're very impressive to the clients. That's half of the problem.
Yeah. It's
I heard
actually
that,
quite frustrating.
Yeah, those reports are impressive. I've seen one of those. They're very intelligent sounding, let's say.
Yeah.
So doctors have figured this out, by the way. I have learned that I have to make painfully boring reports that are obviously handwritten. I can't format it aesthetically, nothing. I have to put the image, I have to write a sentence or two or three, and I have to I can't change the font size. I have to just say discussion, suggestions, neurofeedback protocols, and just bold for my titles. I can't do anything fancy with it, because if I do, the local doctors will throw it in the garbage.
Wow.
Because they know that anything aesthetic is trash. And I was making gorgeous reports that were actually handwritten, and they were getting thrown in the garbage.
Well, sorry you found out late, but I'm overjoyed to hear that, because that means they're on to what I call the flash and pan, the jargon flash and pan. Yeah.
They don't throw away the handwritten ones, by the way. They read them.
They don't throw the what, sorry?
They don't throw away the handwritten ones. They read them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the other one. We talk about pricing and insurance. I mean, what we do, I give an oral report to people.
Yes.
I don't do because the written one, it becomes a medical legal document. And to do it right, it literally takes hours upon hours and hours, and you're paying my hourly rate to do it. The option is the generic one, which, as you said, you might as well just throw it in the garbage.
I actually just give them my notes, and they're actually I don't call it a report, I just call it notes. So I literally just give them my notes, and I write it as if they're my notes.
Yeah, I ask people to take notes themselves. We do have, like, for our clinical queue, we have a generic one, and then I'll circle the things and then cross out the ones that don't apply. I mean, it's chicken scratch, but I say, because this is computer generated, and it doesn't, I call it like points versus what I call constellation. When you look at everything together, it's very different than individual points. And if you have this point and this point, but not that point, it means something different than that one and that one. But if you just go individual points,
Yep.
Dr. Marie, you're licensed. Do you, and you're dealing with insurance, do you do talk therapy and then have neurofeedback as like a complement, like playing cards with somebody and doing talk therapy?
No, it's the opposite.
Okay.
I do, again, I hate the word bias, because bias implies uninformed opinion. But in my professional experience, I find that people can talk and talk and talk for years. It can help, but anything of substance, you want the brain. And so what I do is work on the neuro. And then, so for example, if somebody has extreme anxiety, you quiet the brain, and then you do some talk therapy, because by then they can start to separate the rational fear from globalized fear, all of those things, where when the brain is quieted, you'll get there. Versus if you only do CBT, the person is always going to need this cognitive override when they're having anxiety. And most qualified therapists will tell you, when you have anxiety, you don't have access to cognitive override, right? So it's the balance. And everything I do in the talk therapy, it's action oriented or educational, meaning it's about understanding why and how you're feeling, quieting or stimulating the brain so you can action yourself into something or out of something.
Yeah, and I think the only exception, which I think barely counts, is the psychoeducation around sleep hygiene. Which I think you agree with me on. We want them to get the most out of their training. So all of our talk therapy before neurofeedback is about priming them for neurofeedback.
Wow, that says something.
Yeah.
We were just talking about sleep before you got on. Sorry, Mari, go on.
No, I was going to talk about when we have individuals that are, I was going to say gamers, but internet interactive technology addictions. I'll look at them straight in the eye and I said, you're wasting your money if you're not planning to reduce your gaming or your social media or whatnot, right? So many hours of one form of stim, and then 1 hour of neurotherapy to reduce the brain arousal. I mean, what's going to win? So same thing with, as you said, the sleep hygiene,
Well, I think there's an episode called Gamer Brain on Neuronoodle that I give my clients, and it, basically Jay goes over constructively the research on if you video game for 2.5 hours a day, you basically have, the neurological response to your circadian rhythm like you're drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
And it kind of obliterates your circadian rhythm for like 72 hours.
Yeah.
And it's like, try it, you'll feel it, and you'll realize it's true.
So there's a
population pattern there. And so essentially there are 5, I actually did my my PhD dissertation on this. And I got this data, it was 19 channel full capping, 2012. And then also the 5-point clinical one, so looking at both. And in the 19 channel, and that time it was just a deregulation pattern, like just deregulation, versus when you looked at the clinical cue, those 5 key points, they're very specific points of overarousal. And the occipit, the theta beta ratio was very, very low. High beta beta or the gamma beta ratio, very high. Imbalance in the frontal lobes, and theta SMR was off. All symptoms of hyperarousal, period.
Wow. And I would imagine there's also a big overlap with addictive phenotypes if somebody is a gamer. One thing I wanted to say, there is a paper that I'm looking for that I can find if anybody needs, but it said that the efficiency of neurofeedback training seemed to be largely determined by the strength of the sleep spindle, and specifically SMR. So in other words, how quickly someone trains may be related to how strong their SMR, sensory motor rhythm, is.
Well, so the dirty secret,
at all.
the dirty secret with Barry Sturman's cats have a very large sensory motor rhythm. And that's why it did so well with cats. Like humans have a very small sensory motor rhythm. And the smaller something is, the harder it is to train. So we have a higher failure rates than cats do. Like we have more non-learners in SMR than cats do. Because they've got very, very large.
Very interesting.
And this is something we don't talk about, where it's like, now if something doesn't show up that is, relevantly statistically noticeable above the background noise, which is made up of a whole bunch of factors, some real, some artifact, you're not going to be able to train it. And so like you have to give an accurate feedback loop at an accurate rate to something real in order for it to learn. And it's hard. Sometimes you just don't catch it.
I'd like to make a comment and then move on to radar. That's my kind of question. But when we look at kids, for example, who have sleep issues, everybody looks at the occipit, in terms of too much fast activity, not enough slow. But if their theta SMR is off, always I choose to go after that first. And sometimes that completely resolves it, and then you have an awake, bright-minded kid.
I have a lot of questions about that, but I don't know if I should take the time on here to ask them. But because there's been a lot of controversy in the research around that, and I'm actually talking a lot about it in my upcoming class that I'm about to publish. Because there have been some failed studies, and Martine Arndt did a meta-analysis to find that a lot of the theta that we're observing is due to the fact that we all sleep 2 hours less than we did 30 years ago, suggesting that the theta-beta ratio neuromarker used to be extremely valid and has actually been quite contaminated lately with vigilance issues that are sort of baseline normal now.
No, zero debate there. Zero debate.
What's that? I'm sorry. Zero
debate.
Okay. So I would assume that you have good skill in triaging the real theta beta ratio cases from people with vigilance dysfunction. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's called 30 years experience. I mean,
So what I really want, and I'm not going to get to this for like a year, but I want a really, really thorough class on vigilance triage. That's what I want. And,
Okay,
if it doesn't happen in the next year, I'll make it. I'm reading one of those big books.
Yeah, okay, let's
Wow.
chat off camera if you want to bring me on board.
Yeah. Oh, that would be great. I love that. Yeah.
We've been in an active. We have archival data, 30 years tracking how that changed, right?
I love it.
Well, that has changed, but other things haven't, and other things have changed with it. Yeah, it's we actually. I don't mind sharing that we have an inverse relationship. So theta beta is going up at CZ and going down at 01.
So that was very interesting.
Where did it go?
On Radar's question, I want to set Dr. Mari up before I mention this, that or before she goes. There's a researcher who's done like Dr. Mari has researched. Could phones be influencing our teens' mental health? And he said I listened to him last week. His name's Jonathan Haidt. He said when he wrote the book, he said, I think girls are worse off because female anxiety increased. But very recently, just this last week, I heard him say, I'm now of the opinion that boys are much worse off. And apparently, I'm looking why he says that gaming and pornography are providing outlets other than real life to boys, whereas it's not, maybe social media is not doing the same for girls. And the reason I say that is specifically, so boys tend to game more is the point there I left. So I'll set Dr. Mari up. Does she think the gaming is worse than the social media was Radar's question?
I think it's a moot argument. They're both bad, period.
Okay. There we go.
I think it's an absolute red herring. Boys versus girls, social media versus gaming. Just stop it. It's stupid. It's a red herring, and you're getting off the trail of how interactive technologies change the brain, change development, change mental health. Okay, so that's the first one. Now, the reason why boys is because it started with boys. Okay, so they went after the boys with the gaming, and then the silent creeper of social media on females, and then of course it was more. I don't know, it was more overt, but the males. We noticed school. Essentially symptoms of ADHD and behavioral issues. Okay. And then when we got Ys and the girls, it was anxiety and perfectionism and negative alter ego, bullying. Right. So very, very different. And now it's all kind of merging also with the zero tolerance for violence in our schools. Now, I'm not saying kids should roughhouse to the extent that they're popping each other with punches, okay? But if you have zero tolerance for roughhousing, males get their aggression out the exact same way females did historically, which is passive aggressive. Again, why are females passive aggressive? Not because they wouldn't want to slug somebody, but because there are over 800 years of socializing that this was unacceptable behaviors for women or females.
Well, and having a more developed corpus callosum gives them more options too.
Yeah, okay, I'll take that. And if you look at in intelligentsia, which used to be in religious communities and universities, you'll notice that males are passive aggressive. They use brains over brawn. So yeah, it really supports.
Well, I think men have to do that more these days in the last 100 years than they historically have had to. Women couldn't compete with the old, techniques. So we were really good at punching.
So
it wasn't really the game for women.
Yeah, it's bad news. And one of the things, I always have to say, I am not anti-technology. Okay, I am not necessarily anti-gaming. I'm anti-gaming industry. The nanosecond the industry makes a game that people can be fully satisfied playing 1 hour twice a week, then I would be fully on it. But there are very, very few people. I mean, what's the difference between that and other hobbies, right? That really get the adrenaline going. But they're intentionally not designed that way. They're both of them are with addictive design to keep your attention. It's all about the mighty dollar and the attention economy.
It's very hard to get out of that cycle because I tried going to a flip phone for a while and I immediately found that you were cut out of group texts, which became a big problem for business. Then I got a different kind of phone that was a smartphone but was simple. And I very quickly found that I needed the authenticator apps for government programs that I was a part of that needed an authenticator app. So now I'm on to this whole, like, there are actual phones that are being beta tested that are like black and white screens that are very simple. You can get the authenticator apps. They're not LEDs. And I'm actually quite into this, to the point where I've invested a lot of money in like wanting to attain, because you have to get a systemic solution. It's not going to be like, well, I'll just be more disciplined. Good luck with that. No, you should replace your phone with something else. That's what you should do. The problem is that society doesn't really let us do that. And I think that we're almost to the point where demand is being met by supply, because there's some good ideas that are emerging on the market very soon. Like, for example, a paperweight version of an Android phone. Those are coming out. I already ordered mine.
Are you ready? Look how thick that is. Okay, it's all in here. Okay, but it's a hostile dependency. Okay, you cannot function in modern society. And I have made many decisions that I know are explicitly hurting my career. I'm not on social media. I haven't gone to my Facebook in 7 years. Every once in a while, somebody will flag me. I'm on LinkedIn, but only my name and my address and my profession are there. There's another one, Alignable, same thing I'm on. I'll accept people, but I never write anything. Because you're in that loop, and I literally don't have and don't want to have 2 hours a day to feed the machine. But I know it's affecting me professionally, right? But I want to, when I go home, I want to put my feet up, snuggle with my sweetheart, and have an evening, right?
I had to have a. Go ahead.
I can tee up Radar.
Go tee it up, and we got a boogie.
Does neurofeedback cure the bad EEG phenotypes or just provide a workaround? And I was thinking while you guys were talking about addiction, so even if I assume that, which I do, that anything addictive, whatever it is, it's probably having a bad effect on my brain. If I can't maybe necessarily ever cure that phenotype, as Radar's saying, because Jay does say that phenotypes are largely genetic, okay? But maybe I can maintain my phenotype or maintain my brain health. That way, if I need to use the phone with neurofeedback, that way, if I need to use the phone or I need to pull the all-nighter or whatever it is, right? And we all have our bad habits, that maybe I can continue to work on them and improve with neurofeedback. That's how I see it. So go on.
I'm just going to go after the language because I've got to take off. The wrong word here is cure phenotype. You don't want to cure a phenotype. What you want to do is it's direction versus correction. Okay, so you want to take the edge off of the negative manifestation of the liability, but leave enough so that you could potentially still have that as part of your personality and good direction of it. So you're not quote unquote curing anything. You're curing insomnia perhaps, okay, but you're not dumbing down the brain so that you're sleeping all the time. I'm digressing.
No, you do shift people more towards like their ideal normal baseline, but with injury, enough trauma, they can regress, but it has to take something that would have dysregulated, a normal person anyway. So high chronic stress experiences that people tend to experience once every decade, those can make, potentially rattle those. It's not permanent though. If they come back in and do some more training, it can kind of shift them more towards a resilient state too. I actually have a case, we don't have time to go over it, I know, but I have a case of somebody who signed a release, an educational release, and they did 20 sessions and their phenotype shifted, right where it literally responded to training perfectly. And it's a great example.
Pick this up next week because I think it's a really, really good topic. Do you want to pick it up next week?
Done.
Okay.
I like it.
It's really fun.
I've got another meeting. So
Dr. Marie, Anthony Ramos, Joshua Moore.
Thank you guys.
Have a great night.
Thanks,
every
guys.
Wednesday. See you
Have
here.
a good evening. Thanks, Radar, Lynn, and Tree.
Bye.